Hello, Zer0 Books readers. It's me, Douglas Lane, the freelance publishing manager for Zer0 Books and the voice behind the Zer0 Books podcast and videos. This time we'll be considering the possible upcoming debate between the Slovenian psychoanalyst and quasi-Marxist Slavoj Žižek and the Canadian anti-social justice warrior and Jungian YouTube star Jordan Peterson. In order to properly contextualize this upcoming battle, we'll take a look at some excerpts from Angela Nagle's Kill All Normies and Chris Nineham's How the Establishment Lost Control. But before we begin, I want to mention that I've been working to land an interview debate with Professor Jordan Peterson for over a year, and his team even gave me a date for an interview that they had to cancel. This wasn't a problem. I understand how popular Peterson has become and how difficult it is to keep a schedule when there are a million different demands on your time. When they canceled, I figured there wouldn't be a problem scheduling a new time to talk.
One of the chapters in your book is Tell the Truth. That's one of your rules. What are some of the things that you think we're forced to lie about?
And then Peterson went on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Have you ever debated a Marxist supporter? Have you ever debated someone who is pro-equality of outcome?
No, they don't debate me. No, I haven't, because people don't do it. They don't ask me to do it.
Since then, I've been tweeting at Peterson to remind him of our upcoming conversation, but I have yet to hear back from him or his team about a specific date. If you know Peterson or have a way to contact him, Twitter might work. Would you please tell him that I'm still very much looking forward to talking to him? Now, this possibility of a debate between the philosopher Slavoj Žižek and the psychologist Jordan Peterson has made it possible for me to understand how the incels, neckbeards, and trolls on 4chan came to believe in meme magic. After all, a certain segment of overeducated and underemployed white boy nerds had been secretly wishing for just this confrontation for, let's say, the last year. For example, I myself joined the Jordan Peterson Memes for Commie Teens Facebook group back when Peterson was merely a YouTube star. Most of the left was still reeling from Trump's unexpected victory. You could find us wandering in the streets wearing safety pins, pussy hats, and dazed expressions. But a few of us, probably the worst of the nerdy brocialists, were secretly exchanging memes and jokes about this Canadian anti-SJW, whose rhetoric we opposed, but who had also cast a spell on us.
And I would say that's also a diagnostic indicator of the, shall we call it, the state of the polluted waterworks that make up our current culture. And as spokesfrog for the nation, let's say, I'm stating quite bluntly that we better clean up our act or there's going to be hell to pay.
And it was around the time that I joined this Memes for Commie Teens Facebook group that I first encountered the strangely wonderful juxtaposition of Žižek and Peterson. Why did this happen? Some of the reasons are obvious. Žižek and Peterson both have developed critiques of what even Žižek dares to call political correctness. And Žižek and Peterson both have a certain fatherly charm, even though they are, as dad types, total opposites. If they were to star in an American sitcom, it would be The Odd Couple, with Peterson playing the part of Felix Unger and Žižek playing Oscar Madison. But the main thing they have in common is a willingness to transgress the terms that usually define and limit political conversations in the Anglophone world. They're both what Angela Nagle might call hipsters. In her book, Kill All Normies, Nagle noted that the alt-right had stolen its style from the left. She wrote, "The cult of the moral transgressor was revived in 20th century countercultures. Norman Mailer posited the psychopath as a noble and transgressive figure in fiction. He saw the hipster, which had somewhat different connotations at the time to the beard oil applying variety of today, as borrowing the tradition of the noble psychopath of fiction in his disregard for social conventions in the mainstream, and perceived the fictional psychopath as a symbol of being freed from sexual, social, and moral inhibitions.
The hip lives in a no man's land of the present. What does that mean? That he ignores his responsibilities as a member of the community?
He doesn't feel them at all in the same way. To leap into this a little bit too quickly, perhaps, he feels that there's no particular reason why he should collaborate with society. In other words, he doesn't obey the social contract. He doesn't think of himself as a responsible member of the community who must give a certain part of his work and his, if you will, his goodness to the community, and in return the community...
He's an outlaw.
Yes, of a sort. He's an outlaw without a horse and without a gun, usually.
What I want to argue, and here I'm going to depart from at least some interpretations of Nagle's message, is that we actually do need people who are willing to transgress. Even more, I want to argue that it's really only Žižek who is an actual transgressor. While Peterson might have built his fame through his willingness to be impolite when he thinks it's necessary, he's only acted in an effort to restore balance to the world. He transgresses what might be called PC morality in order to reinstate an old version of what amounts to the same thing. As a Jungian, Peterson's trek across the fantasy world we know as modern life is partial. He's set out on a hero's journey, but knows ahead of time that he will slay the dragon, restore the king to his throne, and return home. On the other hand, Zizek's version of a hero's journey doesn't have a clear destination. Žižek always insists that once you commit to your desires, you can never go home again.
The condition of the renewal means you cut your roots. That's the solution. Look at films like Children of Men. This is a future. Only films like this can guarantee that cinema as art will really survive.
Still, the question remains, why is this pairing of Žižek and Peterson so different, so appealing? I think the answer to this question can be found by reframing it, or by asking a different question, and that would be, how did the establishment lose control? Chris Nineham, in his book that asks that question in its title, observed that despite the devastating impact of the banking crash a decade ago, there has been no change of economic course since 2008. The real significance of the paralysis and turmoil in the ruling class is that their economic project is unsustainable, but they have developed no alternative. What we are seeing is not just the faltering of neoliberalism, but the unfolding of a profound crisis of the capitalist system. This means that the reason we're turning to people like Žižek and Peterson for guidance is because we're in crisis. The reason we're looking for a new dad is because the old dad, the old center, isn't managing to hold. This was the first of 2 videos on the upcoming Žižek-Peterson debate, so if you're feeling like something was left out, keep your eye out for the second video.
Not an argument. It's not an argument.
Also, the ending for the Žižek versus Chomsky video series will be coming soon. To learn more about the Lacanian idea of traversing the fantasy, you might pick up Frank Smecker's Night of the World. You should also consider subscribing to this channel for more videos like this one. And if you're not a patron of our insider podcast called Inside Zer0 Books, you should be.